academic project, we have selected 4 different ecosystems for our study purposes. So mostly classified based on how the climate is going to impact agriculture through its impact on water, which is one of the limiting resources in our state. So water irrigation-based systems, we can broadly, we have broadly classified into 4 categories. So coming under those crops or crop-based systems coming under canal irrigated systems, those crop systems coming under well irrigation, and those coming under tank irrigation, and finally rain-fed irrigated systems. So as far as the fast track analysis is concerned, we have limited ourselves to the canal irrigated rice crop. So that is mostly in the Kaveri Delta zone coming into Tanjavur district, and so we have used data that is already available with one of our ongoing studies, Government of India studies, so that is the cost of cultivation of principal crops. For the survey and the field data are the socio-economic data, and for other climate models and other things, we depended on various sources. Climate data and soil data. Soil data we got from the profile studies available at one of our oldest stations located in Tanjavur district, that is Adurai. And simultaneously, we have also, other than fast track, we are also gathering data for other systems as well parallelly, but I will be mostly concentrating on what we have done for the fast track. So for fast track purposes, the climate people, they have collected the data from the MERA data and future climate data for 20 GCMs. So this, the slide presents some of the results. So maximum temperature, both for baseline as well as the future scenario, and also the minimum temperature baseline, both for baseline and future scenarios, and then the precipitation. I think the next slide will do. So the future projections are given for about 20 GCMs for the 4.5 RCP. So what we observe is that in general, there is all the GCMs predict future temperatures to be slightly above the baseline scenario. So there are, different GCMs give different ranges, but all come within the range of around 3 degrees centigrade. And similarly, minimum temperature also, similar pattern we have seen. So all the models predict there is a slight increase in future temperature. As far as rainfall is concerned, 2 or 3 GCMs predict a little lesser precipitation, whereas most of the other models predict an increase in temperature, increase in precipitation. But the variability remains, intra-year variability remains more or less the same across all the GCMs. So this slide presents the soil data that we have used in our crop models for predicting the future yields at different depths that we have collected from our station studies, soil profile studies that I have already mentioned. So similar results are available for some of the other sites that we have proposed in our region. Otherwise, also we can get data from our soil science department. We have a GIS and remote sensing department that undertakes such studies at different locations of the state. So we will be collecting appropriate data for our other study sites. So the soils that were found in our fast track regions, they come under 2 major categories, clay soil and sandy loam soil. These are the 2 major types that we have observed in our survey, and corresponding data were used for the crop model projections. And similarly, we have also found out about 9 different cultivars that are, rice cultivars used in the area, and this slide presents the genetic coefficients of the varieties that are used. So for some of the survey or the socioeconomic management variables, we have used data from our survey data. So this is the data that we have passed on to the crop modelers based on our economic survey. So data on soil types, varieties used, planting seasons, the fertilizer and other irrigation details. So to some of these details that we have passed on to the graph modelers. So based on these predictions, I mean the crop model results, so this slide predicts for each farmer what is the variation across different GCMs. Most of the GCMs across farmers predict similar yields. So each line represents the average yield, projected yield from different GCMs for a given farmer. So for a given farmer, there is not much variability across GCM projections, but across farmers, there are wide variations as we see from the top to bottom line. So that implies there are management variations across farms that have really a good bearing on yield distributions apart from climate and other variables. So this is the cumulative frequency that we compare between the crop model projections and the actual results, I mean actual survey data, the survey yields that we have obtained, I mean that we have gathered from the farmers. So the second part relates to Andhra Pradesh subsection, where they have done the fast track analysis for maize crop. So they will also be repeating similar ecosystems in their study area, but the fast track results relate to maize crop. So the red points indicate the location of survey farms that they used for the fast track analysis. That is in the Mahbub Nagar district. So they again similarly use the historical data that they obtained from Mahbub Nagar station and similar data. For the future climate scenario, they used the RCP 4.5. So the projections were made for the mid period, that is 2040 to 2069. So they have obtained similar, I mean, these projections for maximum temperature and minimum temperature, and here again, so there is a general higher prediction of temperature, minimum as well as maximum. So it's about the rainfall. So both rainfall, baseline as well as the RCP projections. As I mentioned, they have used the maize variety, maize crop, and the model that is DSAT, and even for our case also we have used the DSAT model. So in this sense, I think there were some discussions. Our crop modelers and climate people, they were discussing with our resource person Sonali. So they were able to succeed to use, in using the DOME model for maize crop, but there are still some issues with the rice model. They are unable to use the DOME and get ECMO files for rice, but they have used the DSAT model as it is and given us the projections. I think we have planned for another boot camp type of discussion to sort out the minor issues in using DOME for rice. So for maize, there is no problem in both cases. Even in our Tamil Nadu case also, they were able to successfully run the DOME for maize crop. And Andhra Pradesh people, they have actually used the DOME for their fast track analysis as well. So these are the nitrogen levels that they have used in their yield projections and the genetic coefficients for the variety that is considered for fast track analysis. So this table shows there is the predicted yields are more or less closely following the observed observed yields, and this gives the distribution of the histograms of yields simulated versus the baseline yields. So similar graphical representation of simulated and observed yields. So then these predicted yields we have used for our economic analysis through the TOA model. So it is a regular process. So these tables, a few subsequent tables, they provide the results that we have got for the TOA analysis. So in both cases we have used perform data. So there are two options that we can use in TOA, either per acre yields or perform yields, and we have used perform analysis, and we have considered only a single strata. Actually, when we went for Dubai workshop, we had In Tamil Nadu case, we classified this 30 data into two strata, but difficulties were there. So it was suggested that we combine them into a single strata for at least in fast track purposes. We will be expanding for the full sample. So we will be considering other strata, relevant strata for each of the ecosystem, sub-ecosystems that we are considering for our entire study, depending on the sample size and depending on the type of crops or systems existing, we will classify them into different strata. But as far as this fast track is concerned, we have considered only a single strata for both the cases, both in Tamil Nadu as well as Andhra Pradesh. So this gives the future predicted yields based on the predicted climate futures. So actually, our Tamil Nadu people used 15 different GCMs and they have given us 15 different corresponding projected yields. But we have used only one among them for making this TOA analysis. Of course, I am presenting only one of these results because other results are more or less similar as we have shown earlier. The ranges of yield predictions are more or less similar. So, as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned, the base simulated yield was, base observed yield was about 5,355 kg. So, the base period simulations are 3800 and 3500, and the correction factor is about 0.95, and finally the predicted future value was about 5 tons. So, similarly, Andhra Pradesh also they have calculated the bias adjusted future projections. So based on that, when these values are substituted in the TOA model, so we came out with an estimate of about 2.84% net loss as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned in the case of paddy crop, and about 3.6% of yield loss in the case of maize crop in Andhra Pradesh. So these are the TOA results. How much percentage of people will be affected by climate change? So this is about 57% of people will be affected or impacted. The point is, with the existing level, that the crossing point is the 57%, but I think there was some interesting discussion in the Dubai meeting. So when actually the climate change becomes a factor, becomes reality, everybody will be affected. But based on the present distribution of the perception of farmers, farmers how they are positioned as far as their current yield and future yield are concerned, how much will be actually incurring losses based on their perceptional levels. So in that sense, so this interpretation is about 57%. So these similar results are obtained for Andhra Pradesh in the case of maize also. So the third interesting part is the RAPS workshop. I think there were some discussions. So how to go about the stakeholders workshop? When we think about the stakeholders workshop, probably this can be done at 3 stages. One, before we plan the project itself, so that we get inputs from relevant people. How are we to proceed? What are the goals or objectives that we have to set? So even to set for our objectives, we can have a type of stakeholders workshop. But in our case, I think so most of the discussions have already been done by our planners and leaders. They might have had enough ample stakeholder interactions. And as far as we are concerned, our stakeholder interactions are mostly limited to develop parameters for how to carry out the project. What type of adaptation strategies to visualize, what type of trends in the management inputs. How these management inputs are going to be used in future. So to develop some of these variables that we are going to use in the TOA model to be realistic. One part of the future projection comes from the GCM models. So equally important is the socioeconomic variables that we will be inputting into the TOA model to develop those variables and trends. So I think that was more important for us to interact with our stakeholders. So with that purpose, we have organized some of these workshops and stakeholders meets. So first we have done some literature review, and we have tried to identify what are the different studies that have been contributing on individual segments of these socio-economic trends, likely trends in future. So different studies, visualize different trends for different future periods, some for short term, some for long term, or whatever it is. So based on this, then we have arranged for an in-house meeting. So with our scientists from different disciplines of our own university, we are a diverse university who are placed in almost the entire state. We have about 38, 39 stations located almost equidistant across all the places. So we invited climatologists, environmentalists, soil scientists, agronomists, almost about 25 people from different parts of the state. And we had a discussion, based on the literature review, we identified certain variables and we asked the participants about their views, how it is likely to evolve and all those things. And then the third part, I think only very recently, just before coming over here, we had a bigger and wider meeting along with planners and policy makers. So therein, we have again repeated the process by presenting some of the results that we have obtained earlier based on our earlier stakeholder meeting. So these are some of the trends that were identified by earlier stakeholders and what is their views. And some of them, I think it was interesting to see that even though we are talking about only, long-term future, I think we concentrated for 2050. Most of what most of the trends that were predicted by the earlier group is almost acceptable to the wider group as well. So that was the thing that we have seen. So in the second meeting that we had on the 19th of July, so we had people from different institutions, so like Indian Meteorological Department, Deputy Director General ESCOM, and member secretary and secretaries from the State Planning Commission, they participated, and people from MSSR, it is one of our leading scientists, Dr. M.S. Swaminathan ESA Foundation, from those they have a separate climate division, and some directors from that institute and some other people working in that institute, they came. And from ICRISAT and from other local agencies who are working on climate change, they have also participated in this, the last workshop. So we have discussed the likely trends and other things. So the interesting part is that we also invited about 15 farmers. So that was the most interesting part. And that was really very interesting to see how they react. So their immediate concern, as we expected, and it happened so well, people immediately, in farmers' perception, they talk about only about immediate problems and immediate solutions. So we'll have to convince them that, okay, immediate problems are also relevant, but what we are trying to do here is, we are trying to understand how things will move in the past, in a little far ahead of our time. So we'll have to understand the big picture, so that only when we have a better understanding of the big picture, we'll be able to better predict the variability and all. So that type of convincing the people, the farmers, and then orienting them, and then trying to reconcile the views between these scientists and farmers. That was an interesting exercise. And finally, I think they also accepted that it is required, even though not fully, I should say, the farmers are not fully convinced. But that gave us an interesting perspective from the farmer's point of view, what is their expectation and all those things. I think based on those things, the discussions, what people expect about the trends, likely trends in future. And of course, we have also, some people always, scientists also argue. So what is the point in talking about two longer distance, about 2050 or 2080? So some people say 2080 we will not be knowing anything. In the past 10 years or 20 years, so many things have happened. So in future, we may not have any food, grown in farms. There may be generated in factories, something like that. So then we'll have to explain that, say, based on assumptions, we can imagine anything, but we are following a particular pattern, something like sad socio-economic pathways. We have certain basic assumptions. We can, of course, everybody can have your own independent way of thinking, but we try to follow certain patterns. So in this particular case, we are following business as usual. If the present trends or existing trends are likely to continue, what is the likely plausible future as far as these sociological variables are concerned? That's how the discussions and everything went, and finally we concluded. Some of these conclusions that we are giving as a narrative. Okay, I don't think I need to read out all those things. So it's all self-explanatory. self-explanatory. I think here some of these visuals so that we had. So this is some of the variables that we have identified and the tool that is developer matrix that we have used. And the discussion subsequent, we had an inaugural session also, and then subsequent discussions, and of course the voting process that has gone through whether people accept or not or authority. Similar exercise was conducted in Andhra Pradesh. Our Andhra colleagues also did a narrative, RAPS narrative. They organized a workshop at Acharya Ranga Agricultural University, and they followed similar pattern about many of scientists they invited and discussed about the maize crop and what are the likely trends about those sociological or management inputs that are likely to evolve in future. So based on that, they have come out with this narrative, that is the demand for maize is likely to increase in future. Not only the demand for rice, but also the demand for value-added products arising out of maize, coming out of maize. And in most cases, both in our case, Tamil Nadu case and Andhra case, they have also identified that government is likely to withdraw mostly from advancing subsidies. So that is a general trend that we observe at the national level and also agricultural level. And people all feel that the same trend will continue at the local level also. So be it electricity subsidy or input subsidy, they are likely to go down in years to come. So like that, fossil fuel use prices, energy prices is likely to increase. So some such things have come up and they have summarized. And farm size will be decreasing. There will be increasing labor scarcity. Wage rates will increase. So people are trying to move away from agriculture in general because agriculture in general is not remunerative. So many things have come out of these discussions. So this visual RAPS meeting conducted by the Andhra colleagues. So they have also arranged some training. So thank you.